The fall of Proxima Colony, the first human city on Proxima Colony, fell within seconds, its towering skyscrapers reduced to rubble by the relentless bombardment of the Nasan forces. The second city, then the third, and soon the fourth followed in quick succession, each one blasted into oblivion by the merciless alien weapons that rained down from orbit. No defense could stop the devastation, no shield could withstand the fury of the Nasan war machine. This was the day that every colonist on Proxima had dreaded, the day that the Nosan, the most feared military power in the galaxy, found them. The reports of their conquests had echoed across the stars for years, a litany of destruction that spanned hundreds of worlds. The Volok were crushed in a matter of days, the Aot annihilated, the Seans butchered to the last child. The Nasin were a force of pure destruction, their hover tanks, plasma cannons, and gene-forged shock troops overwhelming every civilization they targeted. None had ever survived the full might of the Nasin onslaught. Proxima Colony was to be next, the latest in a long line of worlds to be ground beneath the Nasan's iron heel. As the drop pods rained from the skies like meteors, disgorging Nasan warriors onto the blood-soaked soil, one man led a ragged band of survivors into the labyrinth of collapsed buildings and crater-scarred streets. His name was Joshua Carter, an old warhorse who had seen a dozen battles and had hoped he'd never see another. But now, as the Nasan closed in, Carter fought with the desperation of a man with nothing left to lose. He wasn't fighting for victory. He knew that was impossible, but for time. Every second he could buy was another second for civilians to reach the safety of the bunkers, another life saved. High above Proxima's orbit, Nasan Fleet Commander Merrick watched the slaughter with cold indifference from the bridge of his mighty warship. The battle bored him. Another species cowering before their betters, another world to be subjugated. He wished, just once, that some upstart race would offer a real challenge. The initial reports of stiff human resistance barely registered in his mind. Humans, like all the others, would fall. But then more reports came in, describing Nasan advances being blunted by ferocious defenders who melted back into the ruins, of enemy vehicles hijacked and turned on their masters, of shocking casualties among the elite Nasan units. The humans, it seemed, refused to die quietly. This Joshua Carter and his ilk fought like cornered vermin, using anything they could lay their hands on, and to Merrick's growing concern, they were winning. As word spread of the escalating disaster on Proxima's surface, Merrick felt something unfamiliar squirm in his gut. Fear, cold and vile, seeped into his veins. The human resistance was doing the impossible. If they prevailed here, the Nasan war machine, an unstoppable force that had never known defeat, might face its first true threat. This wasn't just a battle for one colony, it was a war for galactic dominance. Against all odds, against an invincible force, humanity would stand, fight, and show the Nasan that they had never faced anything like them before. The battle for the galaxy's future had only just begun. As the Nasan reeled from their shocking defeats, Joshua Carter pressed the advantage. His soldiers struck like lightning from the rubble, ambushing the aliens at every turn. The invaders' hover tanks lay burning in the streets, picked apart by salvaged human weapons. Carter crouched behind the twisted wreckage of an armored personnel carrier, listening intently to Alex Novak's crackling voice over the comms. "I'm in their network feeding you intel now," Novak reported, his voice a lifeline in the chaos. A schematic flickered to life on Carter's wrist screen, detailing Nasan troop movements. Carter grinned wolfishly, the kind of grin that had no place in a man facing near certain death. The aliens had no idea what was about to hit them. "All units, converge on Grid Square Alpha 6, Carter ordered, his voice filled with the grim determination of a man who knew the stakes. "We're going to introduce our new friends to an old human specialty, the art of the ambush. Across Proxima Colony and a dozen other worlds where humanity clawed its way. Back from the brink, Nasan forces reeled as human resistance cells struck with devastating precision. Guided by hacked alien intel, the invaders' superior technology crumpled beneath human tenacity and cunning. In his warship above, Commander Merrick seethed as reports flooded in of disastrous defeats. The humans were like no foe he had ever faced, striking without fear or mercy. How could such a primitive species resist the unstoppable Nassian onslaught? "Burn their cities to ash," Merrick snarled to his subordinates. "Unleash the nerve gas. Scorch the earth until nothing remains but glass." But even orbital bombardments and chemical weapons failed to break humanity's indomitable spirit. As mushroom clouds swelled over ruined cities, Carter and his soldiers fought on, determined to make the aliens bleed for every inch of conquered soil. Then a flicker of hope. Whispers of an enigmatic alien race called the Sylph, ancient enemies of the Nassine, quietly aiding the human resistance. Advanced weapons and intelligence filtered down to Carter's troops from unknown benefactors. For the first time, the impossible seemed within reach. But even as humanity rallied, a desperate Nassine gambit threatened to shatter the resistance. In a daring raid, alien commandos breached the heavily guarded compound of General Elena Cortez, the architect of Earth's defenses. As news of Cortez's capture spread, a grim silence fell over the resistance. The general held the keys to humanity's plans, to the Sylph's shadowy aid. In Nassine hands, she could doom them all. Carter pursed his lips as he absorbed the intelligence. Cortez was aboard Merrick's orbiting flagship, beyond the reach of any human force. A rescue mission was suicide. He checked his weapon and slotted in a fresh magazine, his mind made up. Around him, the grim faces of his soldiers told him they already knew his intentions. One way or another, this war would end soon. Humanity had bloodied the Nassine for the first time in galactic history. Now it was time to face them head-on, to stake everything on a final, fateful gamble. The battle for the galaxy's future would be decided in the cold void of space, where only the strong survived. The turning tide Carter's gaze remained fixed on the holographic display that dominated the center of the war room, a three-dimensional map of the Nassine flagship orbiting Proxima. The behemoth loomed impossibly large, a monolith of death bristling with weapons capable of vaporizing entire cities. "It's a death trap," Carter muttered, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. But then, a voice cut through the tension, rough and steady. "Then it's a good thing we brought the right tools for the job." Carter turned to face the speaker, a tall, scarred man whose very presence seemed to fill the room with an aura of unshakable confidence. Captain Marcus Reese, a ghost in the records and a legend among the resistance, extended a calloused hand. "My ghosts are at your disposal," Reese said, his voice carrying the promise of violence delivered with precision. As Reese laid out his infiltration plan, a glimmer of hope sparked within Carter. The plan was audacious, borderline insane, but it just might work. The Nassine wouldn't see it coming. Hours later, Carter found himself crammed into a stolen Nassine shuttle, the cramped quarters filled with the scent of adrenaline and metal. Beside him, Reese, Novak, and a handful of elite operatives checked their gear in silence, each movement practiced and deliberate. The cargo bay of Merrick's flagship yawned before them, a maw of steel and shadows. "Now, Novak," Carter whispered. Alex Novak, the team's hacker and tech wizard, was already in motion, his fingers dancing over his hollow interface, weaving digital magic. Alarms fell silent, security feeds looped harmlessly, and the shuttle slipped inside like a ghost. The team moved with fluid precision through the labyrinthine corridors of the flagship, every step bringing them closer to Cortez and closer to springing Merrick's trap. As they reached the detention level, Carter's pulse quickened. There, through the force field of her cell, he saw General Elena Cortez. Her eyes widened in recognition, then narrowed in warning. But it was too late. The air shimmered as cloaking fields dropped, and obsidian-armored warriors materialized, energy weapons thrumming to life. "Carter, look out!" Novak shouted, shoving his commander aside as a plasma bolt seared through the air. Novak crumpled, a smoking hole in his chest. The world exploded into chaos. Carter and Reese fought back to back, their weapons spitting death at the relentless tide of Nassine soldiers. For every enemy that fell, two more seemed to take its place. "We're cut off!" Reese roared over the din of battle. "No way back to the shuttle." Cortez's voice cut through the firefight, calm and commanding. "I have a way out, but you're not going to like it." She produced a small device pulsing with otherworldly energy. "Sylph tech," she explained, her tone leaving no room for argument. "It'll create a temporary singularity big enough to punch through the hull, small enough not to destroy the system." "Probably." Carter hesitated for a split second, weighing the impossible odds against the slim chance of survival. Then he nodded grimly. Do it. Cortez activated the device, and space itself twisted and screamed as a miniature black hole tore through the flagship. Alarms blared, and the artificial gravity fluctuated wildly as the Singularity's inexorable pull began tearing the ship apart. Carter fought against the pull, dragging his comrades through the collapsing corridors. They tumbled through the breach, the void of space yawning beneath them, cold and unforgiving. A Nasan shuttle hung nearby, its pilot frozen in shock at the sight of humans escaping into the void. Reese didn't hesitate. His grappling line found purchase, and they swung into the alien craft's open hatch. As the shuttle sped away from the crippled flagship, Carter watched in awe as the Singularity's effects spread. Nasan ships flickered and vanished, consumed by localized space-time anomalies. Others crumpled like tin cans, crushed by gravitational forces beyond comprehension. Amidst the chaos, escape pods blossomed from the dying vessels, desperate attempts at survival. On one of them, Carter caught a glimpse of a familiar face, Commander Merrick, his features twisted in fury and disbelief. The shuttle's comms crackled to life with panicked, not-seen transmissions, their carefully cultivated aura of invincibility shattered among the starfield. Carter's grip tightened on the controls. They'd won this battle, but at a terrible cost. Novak's absence left a palpable void, a reminder that victory in war always came with a price. In the stunned silence of the cockpit, Carter knew the war was far from over. As they limped toward the nearest resistance stronghold, Cortez's words hung heavy in the air. "We've given humanity a fighting chance," she said, her voice steady but tinged with grief. Now comes the hard part. The shuttle engines whined as Carter guided it through Proxima's atmosphere, the planet's ravaged surface coming into focus. Reese's grim features softened for a moment as he gazed at their homeworld, battered but unbroken. "Never thought I'd be happy to see this mudball again," he muttered, a hint of relief in his voice. As they touched down at the Resistance stronghold, a crowd gathered, their eyes wide with hope and fear. Cortez was out first, her presence electrifying the assembled troops. She was a symbol, a beacon of resistance that had not yet flickered out. Carter hung back, his mind on Alex Novak's sacrifice, the cost of survival weighing heavy on his shoulders. "We mourn later," Reese said, clapping him on the shoulder with a brotherly firmness. "Right now we've got a war to win." In the command center, holographic displays flickered to life, showing the state of the conflict across multiple systems. The Nasan invasion force was in disarray, their carefully laid plans shattered by the Singularity crisis. But Cortez wasted no time. "This is our chance," she declared, her voice cutting through the room like a knife. "We hit them hard, we hit them fast, and we don't let up." She outlined a bold strategy, leveraging their newfound Silth tech and the enemy's confusion. Carter found himself nodding along, a fire kindling in his chest. "I want boots on the ground on Carrick within 48 hours. Cortez said, fixing Carter with a steely gaze. "Take that fortress and everything in it." Carter's mind raced, tactical possibilities unfolding before him. "We'll need armor support, air cover." "You'll have it," Cortez cut him off, her determination unwavering. "Just get it done." As the meeting adjourned, an unfamiliar face approached Carter, a lanky man with wild hair and dark ringed eyes. He extended a hand, a manic gleam in his eye. "Luke Renner," he introduced himself. "They call me Farsight." Recognition dawned on Carter. "The hacker. I've heard whispers." Renner's eyes gleamed with a strange intensity. "More than whispers soon. My graybeards are about to make the Nason's lives very interesting." "Interesting?" Carter raised an eyebrow, intrigued despite himself. "How so?" "Let's just say their BattleNet is going to have a very bad day," Renner replied with a smirk. The assault on Carrick unfolded like a work of art. Carter watched from the command deck of a repurposed Nasan dropship as human armor columns punched through weakened enemy lines. On his tactical display, Nasan units blinked red, then vanished as coordinated strikes took them out. "Renner, your hackers are worth their weight in gold," Reese's voice crackled over the comms. "These bastards can't tell which way is up." The fortress loomed ahead, a brutal slab of alien architecture that radiated power and dread. Carter tensed, waiting for the inevitable barrage of defensive fire. It never came. "Their systems are ours," Renner's smug voice announced. "I'm opening the gates. You're welcome." Inside the captured stronghold, Carter pored over the intel they had seized. Fleet deployments, supply routes, command protocols. A treasure trove that would cripple nascent operations across multiple sectors. But it was the cultural transmissions Cortez had prepared that truly turned the tide. Across occupied worlds, the oppressed masses saw images of human resilience, heard stories of defiance against tyranny. The spark of rebellion ignited across the galaxy. On Endor, Reese's ghosts melted into lush forests, striking nascent outposts with surgical precision. Supply convoys went up in flames, communication relays fell silent, and the invaders' grip on the verdant world loosened with each passing day. Nasan High Command descended into chaos. Intercepted transmissions revealed increasingly panicked and contradictory orders. Some commanders refused to engage, spooked by the specter of human ingenuity. The offensive seemed unstoppable until news came of Supreme Warlord Kaz's daring plan, a bioweapon aimed at human population centers, a final monstrous solution to the human problem. Carter's blood ran cold as he received the transmission from Captain Marcus Stanton of Battle Group Ring 235. The man's voice was calm, almost serene, as he detailed his suicidal plan to stop the atrocity. "Someone has to do it," Stanton said simply. "See you on the other side, Carter." The feed cut out, and minutes later, reports flooded in of a massive explosion on Taseti 5. The bioweapon facility was dust, along with Stanton and his entire crew. In the stunned silence that followed, Carter felt the weight of command settle heavily on his shoulders. He keyed his comms, broadcasting to all resistance forces. "You've all heard what happened at Taseti. Lieutenant Stanton and the brave souls of Ring 235 gave everything so that millions might live. Now it's our turn. We push forward, we give no quarter, and we show these nascent bastards what happens when you back humanity into a corner." Across a dozen worlds, the oppressed masses rose up. Alien races long ground under the Nasan boot found common cause with their human liberators. The tide of history turned as reports of Nasan retreats flooded in. Carter allowed himself a grim smile. They'd bloodied the invaders' nose, shattered their aura of invincibility, but he knew the real fight was just beginning. In the void of space, battered Nasan ships limped away from human-controlled systems, but Carter's sensors picked up troubling readings from the galactic core, massive energy signatures. Unlike anything they'd encountered before, whatever was coming, humanity would be ready. The battle for Cross 9. Carter's eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic display of Cross 9, the massive ring world dwarfing even the largest Nasan vessels in the fleet. Its scale was almost beyond comprehension, a testament to the Nasan's engineering might and their grip on the galaxy. But now this behemoth would be the target of the most daring assault in human history. "That's our target," Cortez said, her voice steely with determination. "Take it out, and we cripple their ability to replenish their fleets." Carter nodded, his mind already racing through the tactical possibilities. "It's heavily defended. We'll need something unconventional to even get close." "That's where we come in," a silky voice interjected. Carter turned to face the speaker, a tall, lithe figure with iridescent skin and eyes that seemed to hold galaxies within them. Shara, the Sylph operative who had become an invaluable ally, stepped forward. "Our stealth technology will get you past their outer defenses," she continued. "From there, it's up to you and your team to reach the reactor core." Hours later, Carter found himself crammed into a boarding torpedo with Reese and a handful of ghost operatives. The confined space hummed with nervous energy as they hurtled toward Cross 9's outer hull. The impact was bone-jarring, the torpedo's nose, crumpling as it breached the ring world's skin. They spilled out into sterile corridors, weapons at the ready. "Move fast! Stay low!" Carter ordered. "We've got a long way to go." Resistance was immediate. Zorak security drones swarmed from side passages, their energy weapons leaving scorch marks on the walls. Carter's team responded with precision fire, dropping the machines in heaps of sparking metal. As they pushed deeper into the facility, the opposition grew fiercer. Armored Zorak troops joined the fray, backed by lumbering war mechs that shrugged off conventional fire. "Shara!" Carter called out as a mech's plasma cannon reduced a nearby column to slag. "We need an edge!" The Sylph warrior stepped forward, raising a device that pulsed with otherworldly energy. A wave of distortion rippled outward and the mech froze, its circuitry scrambled. "Not bad," Reese grunted, putting a burst through the disabled machine's viewports. They fought their way through a construction bay large enough to house capital ships, past half-assembled cruisers and fighters. The reactor core lay ahead, guarded by the heaviest concentration of Zorak forces yet. "This is it," Carter said, checking his depleted weapon. "One final push." He locked eyes with Shara, who nodded, producing a small, innocuous-looking cylinder. "Remember," Shara cautioned, "once activated, nothing will stop the reaction." Carter took the nanite warhead, its weight seeming to carry the fate of humanity. "Let's finish this." They surged forward into a maelstrom of weapons fire. Carter felt the sting of near misses, saw comrades fall, but step by bloody step, they advanced. At last, the reactor loomed before them, a pulsing heart of barely contained energy. Carter slammed the warhead against its housing, feeling the activation sequence begin. "Time to go," he roared. They retreated through dwindling Zorak resistance, the entire structure beginning to vibrate ominously. Alarms wailed as they piled into the waiting assault landers. From the relative safety of space, Carter watched in awe as Kraz 9 dissolved, the mighty ring world crumbling into a shimmering cloud of nanites, spreading outward to consume nearby Zorak vessels. Aboard the human flagship Leviathan, Cortez's voice crackled over the comms. "Well done, Carter. You've given us a fighting chance." As the remnants of the Zorak fleet scattered, Carter allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. But his eyes were drawn to the strange energy readings from the galactic core. Whatever came next, humanity would face it together. The energy readings from the galactic core intensified, resolving into a chilling reality. Supreme Warlord Kaz had not been idle in the wake of his defeats. Intelligence reports flooded in, painting a grim picture of Zorak forces massing in the Kepler system. Carter's tactical display lit up with urgent priority markers. He zoomed in on a massive structure taking shape around Kepler's second moon, a dimensional rift generator. "Cortez, are you seeing this?" Carter's voice was tight with concern. "I am," she replied, her tone grim. "If they activate that thing, it's game over for every human-controlled system." Carter's mind raced through potential strategies, each more desperate than the last. "We need to hit them hard and fast before they can bring that monstrosity online." Cortez's image nodded on the holodisplay. "Agreed. I'm mobilizing everything we've got. You'll lead the vanguard with Ghost Squadron." Hours later, Carter found himself aboard the stealth corvette Shadow Dancer, surrounded by the battle-hardened faces of his ghost operatives. Reese double-checked his gear, a familiar pre-mission ritual. "So, we're really doing this," Reese muttered, "taking on the entire Zorak armada with a handful of ships." Carter clapped his old friend on the shoulder. "Not alone. We've got some new friends joining the party." As if on cue, a shimmering distortion appeared off their port bow. The sleek form of a Sylph vessel materialized, its hull seeming to drink in the starlight. Shara's familiar voice crackled over the comms. "Ready when you are, Joshua Carter." The Vanguard fleet dropped out of slip space at the edge of the Kepler system. Immediately, Carter's tactical display lit up with hundreds of enemy contacts. The Zorak had prepared a formidable defensive screen. "Ghost Squadron, form up," Carter ordered. "We're punching a hole for the main fleet." What followed was a series of lightning strikes against Zorak outposts and patrol groups. The Shadow Dancer and its sister ships danced between energy beams and missile salvos, striking with pinpoint accuracy before melting back into the void. With each engagement, the Sylph revealed new facets of their otherworldly technology. Shara's vessel projected holographic decoys, indistinguishable from real ships, sowing chaos in Zorak formations. Other Sylph craft fired beams that seemed to phase enemy vessels partially out of reality, leaving them crippled and drifting. As they pushed deeper into the system, Carter received a transmission from an unexpected source. Luke Renner's face appeared on the holodisplay, his eyes glinting with manic energy. "Cavalry arrived," the hacker announced. "My graybeards are having a field day with their systems. You should see the garbage we're feeding into their targeting computers." True to Renner's word, the next Zorak battle group they encountered seemed to be firing at phantom targets, their formation in disarray. Carter's ghosts tore through them with ruthless efficiency. The path to Kepler's second moon lay open, but time was running short. Energy readings from the rift generator were spiking ominously. Carter knew they had to act fast. "Cortez, we've cleared you a corridor," he reported. "Bring in the main fleet. We'll start our attack run on the generator." As Cortez's armada poured into the system, Carter's strike team made their approach. The rift generator loomed before them, a titanic structure crackling with almost unchecked energies. Surrounding it was the cream of the Zorak fleet, including Kaz's personal dreadnought. "This is it," Carter addressed his team. "We board that generator and shut it down, or there won't be a home to go back to. Let's make it count." The Shadow Dancer's hull shuddered as Zorak point defenses opened up. Carter gritted his teeth, guiding the ship through a storm of fire toward their target. A blinding flash lit up the view screen as a Sylph vessel intercepted a barrage meant for them, disintegrating in a spectacular explosion. They were almost to the generator's main docking bay when a gravitational anomaly seized the Shadow Dancer, yanking it off course. Carter's stomach lurched as artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. "Kaz is using the generator's power to create localized gravity wells," Shara's voice crackled over the comms. "We can't get closer." Carter's mind raced, searching for a solution. Then he saw it. A Zorak frigate caught in the same anomaly, drifting toward the generator's hull. "Reese!" he barked. "Prep for emergency EVA. We're jumping ship." Moments later, Carter found himself hurtling through the void, the tether of his grappling gun stretching toward the Zorak vessel. He landed hard on its hull, magnetic boots engaging. Around him, ghost operatives and Sylph warriors materialized from their own vessels. As one, they charged across the alien hull toward a breaching point. Carter's plasma cutter made short work of the airlock, and they were in. The generator's interior was a maze of twisting corridors and pulsing energy conduits. Carter led his team deeper, guided by Shara's esoteric sensors. They encountered sporadic resistance, security drones, and the occasional Zorak patrol, but nothing like the opposition Carter had expected. His unease grew as they neared the central nexus. This was too easy. The massive doors to the nexus chamber hissed open, revealing a cavernous space dominated by a swirling vortex of impossible energies. And there, waiting for them, stood Supreme.